Such a dinner requires some entertainment, and while I'm not an entertainer, to say entertaining things about the speaker of tonight is not difficult. I was actually not his official student, but like many of us, I do feel like his student in more than one way. In the previous century, when I was a young master's student, I went to a talk of some important guy, and then someone in the back asked a question and referred to a method and how it works and how it compared, and the speaker asked about where was this published. So the guy in the back said, "Oh, I just wrote a little script and I ran it on my laptop here, and this is what I got during the lecture." And that, I think, captures some of what is Michael Levitt. So we'll try to give a multi-scale introduction to Michael Levitt, and of course we'll do it in a Q&A fashion. The first easy question is, what is the biggest recognition award that Michael Levitt ever received? And that's, of course, an easy question. It has to do with Stockholm, with Sweden, and with this guy. And that is, of course, the after-dinner talk that he gave in 3D SIG in 2009. And today he's giving the second after-dinner talk, the first person in the history of mankind to give two 3D SIG after-dinner talks. He spoke then about the protein universe and how the growth of single-domain families is very slow. And that's a topic we heard about today, quite a few years after that, with very similar words to what he said then. So the world of Michael Levitt has to do with quite a few places, and his parents originated from Lithuania and the Czech Republic and met in South Africa. And I think that what is common to all of us, and each of us has a different type of science, is that in some way we all play with balls and sticks. And Michael played with balls and sticks in a very young age. His mother was not happy with that because he did it till 2 a.m. and he didn't phone home. And that is the type of balls and sticks and geometry and angles that he got playing with in a young age. So she told him he should do something better in his life. So he went to the University of Pretoria at the age of 15 to do some applied math. And from there, continued to King's College, where at the age of 20 he got a bachelor in physics. And as of 2005, just his own world, as he confessed to me, had to do with a few small places. He told me then that it's about 30% of the time at Weizmann, 30% of the time in Stanford, 30% of the time traveling, and 10% of the time in the air on some airplane. So data mining Michael Levitt's and looking on his bio and the information of his bio is just like any other bioinformatic research. There is a usual US and EU databases, whether it's and or versus, you decide. They have some redundancy and they don't have full coverage. And here is a US one, here is a EU one. They have a lot of information. The EU one is a little bit more shiny with some gold into it. And when you look on data, you have to acknowledge, even if it's not politically correct, to say when someone tampered with the data. And the material in this introduction was stolen without permission from all kinds of sources, not only from the main sources. And I want to put a disclaimer: the introduction includes the truth, but not the whole truth, because someone confessed to a reporter that he is about to clean some of the striking evidence. So I deeply apologize that I won't tell the whole truth. A free-spirited winner of the chemistry prize told Haaretz newspaper he now has to erase Facebook photos of him in underpants at Burning Man Festival before they get into Swedish newspapers. So this is all we can get with that. So from underwear to software, what is a secret to his extended brain power and energy? It is not that he's doing kayaking, but the fact that he learned to do that from YouTube, but also that he went through all kinds of hardware, and he's especially fond of his Mac, which gives him extended energy. And in the past, he told me he used to have 12 batteries to go from one of his homes to another home and to work on the plane, and he has a big memory of 3 terabytes on this machine. So to get a Nobel, you also have to think out of the circle, and in one of the times in '99 when he flew, he saw an ad on a flight magazine where he can do some things that bothered him, because when you use fonts in Office, they're not so nice, and he could get $100 for better fonts. And then he wrote these fonts, which are the Michael Levitt fonts. And as you see, he circumcised the O and got a special O, which is part of his own fonts. Moving from static fonts to dynamic atoms, at the age of 20, this guy, John Kendrew, he wanted to work with him, and apparently he didn't have a position, so he said, well, you should go to somewhere else where you'll be able to play with balls and sticks, and that is to the Holy Land. But actually not to the desert, but to a place which is a garden of sculptures, the Weizmann Institute, to work with Schneur Lifson and with Aryeh Warshale, who at the time did the consistent force field in Schneur Lifson's lab. So actually also there he had to play with balls and sticks, and he testifies, and I'm teaching from slides I got from Michael, so he testifies that it's a painful, slow work, but at the end of the day you really know the molecule, but you really want to computerize it, which is, I guess, less tedious than building balls and sticks models. And as found in the Nobel Museum, theoreticians use chairs a lot, and he signed here a chair from there. So after some time with Schneur Lifson, he went to Cambridge and had extended visits to both Weizmann and La Jolla, and wrote a potential energy, which is old physics equations to understand the chemistry of life, which at least he claims is a simple sum over many terms. And I think we all know him for that. And doing a minimization, although today it's standard, you have to take into account the tough weather at the edges and the rocky places, which you go when you go down into the energy well, and you hopefully don't waste too much time on local minima along the way. And so in '69, he already refined a protein conformation using the energy minimization procedure. So here he is in Cambridge, and in Cambridge he had many mentors which already had the gold medal, with whom he worked, and did a visit to La Jolla, came back to Weizmann, and in a slightly different age than now, and then moved to Stanford. So after the official part, a few anecdotes. Most of the world's superpower computer solve these equations, and that is to say how widespread these equations began. And in 2012 he made a statement that 75% of the world's computers do MD, so I asked about it, and immediately I got an Excel with TeraGrid with the actual division of all of what the big computer is doing, and 75% was doing MD at the time. So to move into dynamic atoms, we also have to look into peer validation. And just one example of many, a paper by Arne Ellefson, who is now actually on sabbatical in Michael's lab in Stanford, did a benchmarking of quite a few programs, and in the abstract noted that Michael's program performs very well, although it was written more than 10 years ago and has not undergone any development since, and that is to show the scope of what Michael is doing. It's not only this one equation. And actually, when I wanted to check in what year, just to confirm he gave the after dinner talk, I searched for his name, and I saw that in each one of the proceedings of 3D SIG, his name is there. He is cited in all of them, although there are not so many citations in the proceedings. So after that, we have to think whether molecular dynamics is any good. And taking a sentence maybe out of context, I will cite someone who wrote a paper, and describing CASP-3, he wrote that it skirts a central embarrassment of molecular mechanics, namely that energy minimization or molecular dynamics generally leads to a model that is less like the experimental structure. So while the theory is good and while dynamics is good, not falling in love with your own model for every possible application is something that not many people will state, and that was of course true for quite a few years ago. And indeed, in MD, if you walk far enough, we shall sometime come to some place, I'm sure, as Dorothy said in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And Michael went into quite a few different topics, from structural patterns to segment matching to decoy sets to lattice models, and I can go on and on and on, but we are here to hear Mike and not this introduction. But just to finish up, what does he think about love and marriage? And for that, I think that the words of that he said after the Nobel at exactly a time of pi of 314 are important words. And I don't know if you can hear it, but you can all go online, and we don't have too much time. We began very late. But he acknowledged the fact that he's married. First of all, he thanked his wife that he met just 10 weeks after coming to the Weitzman at the age of 20, but he acknowledged the fact that he is married also to his work, and he's splitting his time between the two, and he's still, both him and Arya are married to the same wife for many, many years. In this process, also, he's acknowledging all of his big group and giving a lot of credit to all the people who worked with him. And just to sum up, what is the best use of computers after what I said, and according to Michael Levitt? Well, for that you have to go to his Facebook, where he doesn't share too many posts, but he did share one post about tainted love. And the best use of technology ever was about tainted love, but the question is what's on Michael's mind when hearing tainted love songs. And of course, here I'll just put a short clip of that, and a short clip of that, So no music after dinner, we have to have some music. So floppy disks know how to do it. And here you can see Michael Levitt's calculations, but a lot of credit given to other folks who did this movie. And basically in this movie, you see the dance of pancreatic trypsin inhibitor. And this dance is not doing much. It's not moving too much, it's a little bit of dancing, but it's a correct dancing, and it wasn't easy to get this type of dancing. So with this, I want to say that time flies and is still captured, not fully captured by computation. It's yet an unsolved problem, and it is still found in the dynamic dimension of biomolecules is still a challenge of the field, and fields that Michael has established for us. And we would like to thank Michael for this triumph, which is really our field. It is a big winner. And without further ado, I want to give the stage to Michael and say a big thank you. And the stage is yours. Thank you.